We're here in Austin. Behind me is like the gloomiest of gloomy weather. It's so foggy you can't see.
It's Gotham.
It does look like Gotham. It's so foggy you can't see but like 30 feet outside before it just disappears. And starting later tonight, we launch our really special event at the AES. I think they're calling it a global summit.
Something like that.
As a part of GoBundance, they've had an AES event, which was open to everyone for 2 days. So it was Cody Sanchez, Rich Roll, Rock Thomas, a whole bunch of other speakers, David Osborne,
David Green,
both of them, David Green, and a couple others that have been speaking and sharing. And that was
Brian Beers. Shout out to the Philly group.
Oh, you're a Philly guy. Ugh. But the GoBundance community was invited. If you're a member, you're invited. And this was the first event that they opened up to the public. So different. I don't know that there's a whole lot of people here that are from the general public, but it was an invitation. So they opened it up. On the backside of that, there's an elite event.
A much better event.
Well, no, it's for elite people. The members in GoBundance that are elite.
I'm jumping to ours.
Yeah, you're getting ahead of the curve here. I'm trying to explain what's going on here. There's an elite event for members of GoBundance. Then there's an event that we're running that is 2.5 days on influence.
That's the real elite event.
That's bigger than elite. That's just superior. And and that event is what we could talk a little bit about. But before that even starts, it's been a lot to make this happen. So I kind of want to break that down for people because I think what happens is people assume that when you run an event, you just like show up and you do your thing and you just like magically like hover onto stage and that's it. And
could we make that happen? You hover?
I'd be down. I'd be down to hover. They have like hoverboards. We can get a hoverboard and I could like hoverboard on a stage.
Do that, or I'll get one of the hand trucks at the UPS store and just wheel you in.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'll try to look as cool as possible on a UPS hand truck. But like this, I think it would be good to just kind of let people in behind the scenes on what does happen at events, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that want to speak on stage, that want to facilitate, that want to lead, and that I wouldn't call it like the dark side of it, but there is like a lot that goes into this. Now, I'd say our events are far and above what most people do. We build custom workbooks. We create new structures and frameworks. Like we're not just talking. Like to do a talk is different. If you're just like speaking the whole time, that's very different than facilitating. So there is some nuance to that. But I still think that the expectation that people have is like, well, I arrive, the hotel like sends out a chariot. I get to like get ushered into this, penthouse room. I like order food and have room service. And then, when it's time, like a red carpet is rolled out and I get to go speak on stage. And
I wish
just
I
not
had
like
my
that.
Remarkable just to take notes as to what you want to happen.
The dream. The dream.
The chariot.
Just once I want to be in a chariot. Okay. Just once. I don't need it to be gold. I just want to be in a chariot. So
no, you remember where they carry like the leader in on four guys. That's
like
what
the big cot. Yeah. I mean, hey, look, I'm not opposed to it. So the first thing I think people should be mindful of is that when you're going in to facilitate an event, you really have to be conscious of your energy and your health. So we know this because you and I have been dealing with it for the last couple of days, but what day is today?
Friday.
Okay. So today's Friday. Monday, I must have eaten something really, really bad. I don't know. I think I know what it was, but I ate something really bad. Tuesday, I'm hugging porcelain for like 9 hours. Like I was empty. I was throwing up. I was pooping. Like it was nuts. Everything was empty.
He looked like death.
I have not felt that bad in a very, very long time. I was weak. I could barely move. I didn't have any energy. And I just felt totally sick to my stomach to where I was shivering. I was cold. I remember I threw up one time and like my fever broke. I'm pretty sure it was a fever, and just like instant sweat, like not good when you're facilitating in front of 92 people 3 days later.
And flying the next day.
And flying the next day. And I'm taking care of my son. So like, just was a lot. So it's interesting how I, as a very health conscious person, when that goes out the window, nothing else matters. Like nothing else. But 3 days before an event, like that became the priority, to the tune where I didn't get to attend much of the event yesterday. I just had to focus on health. So I think that's a part of this that needs to be understood. Like what have you noticed? Because we've now done this many, many times. Like what have you noticed when it comes to health? And you kind of end up being the guiding light for me sometimes, where I'm like go and want to focus on event, but you've kind of helped manage me to say, hey, like you've really got to prioritize rest and all these things.
Yeah, it could take the sickness out of it that you experienced this week. That there's a level of energy, as you know, that goes into doing something like this, and that you can't run, and then expect to show up and have that same level of energy that you're going to need for an event like this. So take the sickness out of play. You're still going to have to create time over the course of the weekend. Not that you could necessarily store up energy, but you could rest and take care of yourself so that you do have that once you get here for the weekend. So the sickness just added to it. I mean, it forced you to stop whether you wanted to or not. Had to cancel everything and force you to stop. It might not be good rest or the best kind of rest, but it still forced you to stop and rest. So I take the sickness out. I still think it's a necessary part of doing something like this. If you want the energy to be able to engage with 90 to 100 people, you better be rested and well prepared. And you know this, and I know this from my own experience. It's hard to get good rest during that time anyway, because your mind is constantly processing what you need to do and what needs to happen. You could at least take the logistics out of it so your mind can primarily stay with what the program is. But that it's such a necessary part for any of us that have done public speaking type work. You need to be able to come in with that kind of energy.
Yeah. And again, I think the differentiation that we're talking about here, like tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, like I'm on for like 10 hours, like in front of 100 people, moving people around and asking people if they need coaching and asking questions and having them journal. And, it's a lot, and you've got to be on too. And I think the interesting part of rest and really minding how your state is, we're really talking about, what's your state, is that you almost, or I'll just speak from my perspective, I have almost had to say, especially Wednesday and Tuesday when we had to cancel everything, the obligation we have to these 100 people is that this is a life-changing weekend. That's like the commitment level that we make. And as much as I would like to have been in the room yesterday, and it was great to go in the room where people were coming up and saying, hey man, I'm so excited for this weekend. I can't wait to hear your part. Like, so glad to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Some of these are clients that we don't get to see in person all the time. Some of these are people that want to be clients that we just haven't found the right fit yet. Some of the people I've known for 7-10 years. I had a woman came up yesterday. I haven't seen her since 2016. We joined our first mastermind together back in 2016. So like there's all these special relationships, but I did not have it in me to be social. I listened to one talk. I listened to Cody Sanchez for an hour. It was awesome, but I barely could keep it together and sit upright for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And that was 2 days out from when you were sick.
Yeah. So it's just been interesting to have to prioritize and say, okay, there's 100 people that are expecting a home run performance. That's the way to think of it, at least that I think of it, is this is not just, if you do a speaking gig, you got an hour, right? You got 90 minutes. Like just get up, tell your story, make a keynote. Cool. This is so much bigger than that. And people are expecting a huge performance where they leave moved, they leave educated, they leave better. They have, it's an experience, right? It's like, I can't make the comparison to Tony Robbins from a skill level perspective. That man has created like experiences in stadiums.
I mean, I can go get hot coals if we want to.
We can go. Let's go get some hot coals, man. I'm down.
On hot.
I'll pour one in my coffee just to Bro, somebody spelled your name with an I.
I know.
What is that? like Mardi Gras.
Back to the show.
So I can't make a comparison to Tony
This is
Robbins.
what I have to work with. I
know,
easily
all
distracted.
All the time. But what he has done is created these big experiences inside of big stadiums. And my dream is to have really big audience have an experience like what we're going to do this weekend. So we're growing. We've done 30. We've done 50. That this will be 100. We just keep on scaling up and up and up. But it's still a performance. It's like an athletic performance. It takes stamina. It takes endurance. It takes focus. It takes all the things that I learned in athletics. And the same thing would apply to an athlete. If you are ill before a game, before a big performance, before a big playoff series, you have got to be dialed in on your health. And it doesn't. Here's the other thing. It does not matter what it costs at that point. It really doesn't. If it's $12 juices, some of which are in the cabinet, then you buy the $12 juices. If it's extra water,
and that's
whatever
that's a show for another day.
Oh my God. Some nightmare stories from drinking beet juice. I'll just put it that way. Okay. So another side.
No, well, hold on. Before you move on, just keep rolling along. How do you then? Two things. One is not being around all the time for these days also creates a sense of expectation for, oh, we can't wait to see you once we do get into the real superior event. Right. So that there's that. But how do you, as the facilitator, presenter, keep your own expectations in check? Because the expectations can also get way out of hand when you're trying to do something like this. So how do you, as a facilitator, keep those expectations in check?
I would say I'm partial to leaning into the community. It's important that I go say, hey, right? I need to go do that today and do that. And also to make sure I set a healthy boundary of I'm going to go rest now. I'm going to take a couple hours. I'm going to rest my voice. I'm going to rest my body. I'm going to get my mind set ready for this big performance. But the expectation that I have of myself is I can do both, and I can do both fully. And it's great to be in a room where there are great speakers and learn. And also it's incredibly important to help get things set up and make sure things are dialed in. So I think what I have to pay attention to is, why do I have the expectation? If 100 people are here to go through this experience together, that's really the focus. And the other things become secondary priorities. So I think in my head, I keep re-ranking, what's the priority? What's the priority? What's the priority? And if I know 100 people are counting on me, that stays top and doesn't move. So anything that supports that goes to the top. Anything that contradicts that, I've had to really mind, look, it's great. It'd be great to do that, but it just can't happen right now.
And from all the events that we do, even smaller retreats, once it starts, it takes on a life of its own. And you have to be mindful of that. And where's this going? What's the real need of the community? You don't really know those things until you're in that room. And that's the difference between just getting up and giving a talk and getting up and facilitating an event. A talk is very easy in some ways because it's just you and whatever happens.
And there's no interaction.
Correct. It's not a dialogue. You're creating dialogue, facilitation, conversation, which again takes on a life of its own then.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a mindfulness to what is the audience and their reaction and their needs, way different than if you're just speaking for sure.
Oh, it does impact it, because if they're all sleeping, you might want to change what you're doing as a speaker. And I've had some where it's like, oh my, please stop already.
Man, well, this is why I changed majors in college. You don't think about a college professor being a speaker, but this guy was monotone the whole
Right.
hour.
Exactly.
I'm passed out. It's 8:00 in the morning, dude. I'm out. I don't want to be an engineer.
Has nothing to do with the fact that you were up till 2 a.m. But
No.
other than that,
Not at all. No. Well, it didn't help that I was up till 2 a.m. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I think the expectations are really difficult. I'm currently sitting in front of you. I want to go downstairs and there's an old mentor of mine that's speaking, old coach of mine speaking. I want to go see him, but I'm also well, we got some content that we need to film. There's some stuff we need to prepare for. I've got a couple other things on the calendar today to be ready. And then I need to take that like 3 to 6 period and do nothing. Like I really have to just sit and not talk, right? Again, it's weird to think about resting my voice, but if you talk to anybody that is a professional musician, that's what you got to do.
I know
this is the instrument.
When I preached like Sunday mornings, by Sunday afternoon, I had like no voice left.
Yeah. You know, I had a person, I forget when it was. This was a couple years back, and he was like, dude, you're a phenomenal speaker. You're like, you have so much energy. Use a microphone. And I was like, dude, it's like 40 people. He's like, no. You don't get it. It's fine with 40 people, and it's fine once in a while. But when you start doing this like 1, 2, 3, 4 times a week, when you're on Zoom all the time, coaching and facilitating, if your voice runs out, you're rather fucked. Like, it's your instrument, and you got to really protect your instrument. He's like, use a microphone. Anyway.
Pretty face will only go so far. You still need your voice.
Still need your voice, yeah. I think the other thing that comes up as we look at this is like, I think, and maybe it was in front of you or over here. Oh, there it is, the workbook. So we've probably spent a good, there it is, the holy grail of workbooks. It's probably 30 pages. You know, another part of this that I don't think people fully understand is if you're facilitating for 12 hours, 2 days, and then a half day tonight, what we try to pair with that is a workbook, places where people can journal, they can write, they can take the education, they can take the information, they can jot it down, and they can do it in their way. They can use drawings, pictures, hieroglyphics, like whatever they want to do. But that workbook probably took 50 hours between you, me, between the number of times I asked you to read it and review it and make sure it made sense.
At least 10,000.
At least 10,000. I did. Like, I asked him to read a lot.
Just one more read. One more.
I tweaked something. Read it.
That's right. I tweaked something on page 69. But can you read the whole thing again? Just one more time.
The level of detail that goes into that. And that's just our time. Like, we had a graphic designer on it. We had some testers go through it. Like, there's a whole lot that goes into it. And
people printing it. It's got to be done ahead of time.
That's right. We had the printers on it. We also have a facilitator copy that's got notes and cues for us to kind of guide. Then you have the workbook. And when you build the workbook, you really have to architect the entire experience, right? You really have to dial in like A to B to C. Okay, well, how do those things connect? And if you have done anything like this, I really put this back on my career coaching soccer. When you build a practice session, the way you want to do it is you do your warm up, then you build like a skill development segment. So dribble between the cones, right? Or like step over, push the ball to the right. Well, if you start with that step over, push the ball to the right, then the next drill, a mini game, would involve that skill. And then you have a full-sided game that emphasizes that next skill. So you kind of step all these things together and expand so that skill gets developed and then gets applied. It's really important. So the same mentality goes into these frameworks where we have, you know, A to B to C, it all connects. But if you have like A square yellow, like the guests are going to be like, what the heck is going on here? Like, and I've been to events where the facilitators or there's multiple facilitators and like there's no flow. We've probably all been to those where you're like jumping all over the place. The styles are different. The content doesn't really match up. The language might be different. So it's important that we take a lot of time on this and really dial in those workbooks so that someone has a continuous experience. And I think that right now we're more unknown than we are known. But I have a feeling, like it's in my gut and in my heart, that we're going to start to see the fruits of our labor when people start calling and saying, hey, can we get that workshop? How do we build an influence workshop like yours? Or can we bring you in to do that with our community? Or can we get you all to do that with our group, with our entrepreneurs, with our segment, you know, whatever it is? Because not many people are as meticulous about the details and about a high level experience as we are. I just don't think it's easy to be this meticulous. It's like thankless work.
It's still there's still the dynamic of once people are involved, once you're in that room, you have no idea where it's going to go. Like 5 Ways to Get in Your Own Way is in that booklet. I also know it's later in the booklet. But if you have to reference that come tonight, you have to be able to flip to that page and say, well, go to this page.
We're going here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's just the dynamic of the room. I do think it will continue to take off. I'm just thinking when I was down getting coffee, someone stopped me. I have no idea who they were, but they've listened to meditations on the podcast. I have no idea who that person even is, but they recognize me from those meditations. So it is happening.
It definitely is happening. Yeah, the movement's starting. I mean, we were just here last night. We had the group of 7 in this room. So we're sitting at this table and kind of shared as they graduate out.
Everyone but me. I was in a chair for me. So.
Well, you were giving out the thank you cards that were fucking awesome. But like I think this movement is starting and it's waking a lot of people up, and our reputation continues to expand and expand. And I can appreciate that. I can also appreciate that, like this workbook, we're just doing the silent work. And I would urge anyone that has a desire to do speaking or facilitation. Again, those two things being wildly different as far as magnitude. But either way, it's a business. And what you see on the success thread is like 3% of the work. The other 97% is a dogfight week in and week out. Like the amount of work that it takes to get here, not just the logistics, not even just the workbook, but the number of times I've gone through this in my head, the number of laps I've done through this event is you can't even quantify it. Because so much. I've done this for 6 months.
Almost as many times as you've asked me to read that manual.
Probably 10,000 times, just like you reading the workbook. Well, I just think that there's this false narrative around, like, you just show up, you walk in, you speak, you roll. And at a certain level, I'm sure there is some truth to that. But like an athlete, if you're gonna fly from, I'm in Arizona, if I'm going to fly to, like, I don't know, Boston to run an event, I'm on 3-hour time delay. If the speech is at, let's say, 11 a.m. on a Friday or a Saturday, I can't leave at 3 a.m. to get there. So I got to get there the night before. I got to make sure I get rest. I got to make sure I'm prepped and dialed in. My slides are correct. I've got the flash drive. The audio team has all the stuff. Like, there's so many more pieces behind the scenes than people give credit to. And I think that everyone in the space of entrepreneurship, in the space of growth that is really pursuing something, if they know what they want, if they're clear on their vision, then they probably can isolate the 97% of the dull, mundane stuff that you have to do over and over and over. You could probably get a good, somewhat of a sense. But if you're just starting out, if you're still trying to break that 6-figure mark, or you're trying to get your systems dialed in, you're probably not quite aware of the 97% all the way. You're probably still stuck on that 3% of, like, well, I really want to be on the podcast, or, I can't wait to be on your show, or, hey, I really would love to have a keynote. I want to do a TED talk. But the sheer amount of hours that goes into this shit is so much bigger than anybody expects.
Let alone all the other logistics with a hotel, with space, with, like, we haven't even talked about that, but there's that's a whole other piece of the pie. Like, if you plan on doing it by yourself, you will kill yourself along the way, because there are so many details behind the scenes. And that while you're up there facilitating, you can't be taking care of a lot of those things. Something as simple as, is there water in the room? How are you going to think about that? So, but that's one of the things you have to be mindful of when you're dealing with a group of 100 people, that there's got to be these things that are happening without you even knowing it.
Yeah, I think another logistic that goes into this is even to the supplies, right? So you sit down, it's like, okay, we got 92 people coming, got 100 people coming. Okay, well, we want to do some things that bring them all together. This is where I think facilitators candidly do a shit job. If you're in a room of 100 and everyone is looking at you the whole time for 10 hours, you done messed up. Like, the magic of the room is in what is in the room, not just me, not just you. It's building bridges and connections and relationships through the experience. Like, that's the whole goal. If you really want to be influential, that's how you do it, right? It's not, well, I saw this and get out of your own way. I saw Aaron, I saw Marty. Like that's one part of it. The real magic is I was at this event with you and now we're in business together, or now we generated this magical idea together. Now we're in a pod together. Now we're traveling to Austria together to like experience culture there, like whatever it is. But I think sitting down, and we sat there and said, okay, we want them to have this collective experience. We want them to be able to connect deeply. Let's put these like tall easel boards on the table. Let's just put one. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. How many tables do we have? Oh, well, we got to talk to the event coordinator. Let's figure out how many tables are going to be in the room. Oh, there's 10 tables in the room. Okay. So that's 10 people huddled across a giant, tiny little easel board. Giant, tiny. It don't make sense. It's a giant Post-it note. That's a tiny easel board, whatever. That's not going to be sufficient. Like that's going to slow down the flow of the whole room. We need, instead of 10, we need 20. And you just have to think about all these different intricate moments that you're trying to create.
I've been at events where it was obvious they hadn't thought of that. And I've even heard speakers say that. I just didn't think about what was going to be needed. Someone better be thinking of what you need. Otherwise, that's just a huge part of the experience. And if you want people to be writing stuff on paper or something, you better have it ready when you're there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know when that point changed for me. Maybe it's through what we've been building together. I've been doing retreats for a long time. I've been hosting events and facilitating masterminds for a long time. Influences. This is a masterclass. Like influence has been a part of my life for 15 years. And I think that's another part is like, people assume you're going to get this shit figured out in like 15 days. Like, oh, it's my first keynote. It's my first presentation. It's my first facilitation. It's my first workshop. It's my first training. It is going to be a train wreck. And you have got to be okay with that. You just really have to be gentle with your expectations. Because if you think that you're going to somehow like ace it, or that the pros, right? Again, we'll use like a Tony Robbins.
Yeah, you're going to be the Tony Robbins as soon as you step out there.
Same thing with music, right? When you go see like I'm trying to think. When I was in college, I saw Lupe Fiasco. He's a rapper. I love Lupe Fiasco. But it was like before anybody knew him, it was like him and like a drummer and like 2 lights. Like there weren't even stage lights. It was just so small at the campus of UMBC. It was tiny. But then you see someone like Mariah Carey, or big renowned artist. Doesn't name your
Taylor
genre.
Swift.
Taylor Swift. Think about like Ed Sheeran. Think about Imagine Dragons. Like you go see Imagine Dragons, man. They got this 10-foot drum. Like they have all this equipment. It's a huge light show. There's production. Those people have been doing shows since it was just them in a living room for probably 15 years.
That's right. Lugging it around themselves.
And there's this premonition, I think, of, well, like they just blew up. But they probably have been through so many iterations. Comedians do the same thing, right? If you really study comedians, what they do is they go to small venues in cities where nobody would know them. They jump into like the back of the line with like your standard, I'm trying to be up and coming comedians. They jump in and they test their jokes. And if they don't work, they don't do them at the next test. They just keep rotating. And there's this iterative process and improving process when you build a facilitation experience of like, I know that ain't going to work. I know that ain't going to work. I know this. We've done it. Maybe the content's different, but we know how to facilitate this. It's going to work.
I forget what comedian I was listening to who spoke specifically to that if you can't handle failure, you will never make it in this business, because that's the only way you learn.
Was it Seinfeld?
Works. It might have been Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld is great at this stuff. I know Kevin Hart has spoken about it too. But both of those things speak to like start small, right? And get better as you go. But also, when you look at someone that's really successful, I think that the lie that we have is like, talent-wise, I could match that. Okay, great. But experience-wise, and understanding the mechanics of these things behind the scenes and knowing how they're built, you don't have a fucking clue.
Yeah, there's 5,000 steps between A and B. And like most people cannot just do the leap.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. The last piece of this that we can dig into is that when you're putting together an event like this, the value that people need to walk away with cannot be information. And that's a really interesting comment to make. And the reason I believe that is that information no longer has the same utility that it did 10 years ago. All the information is available. And in fact, what you and every single one of the people in any of the rooms that we've ever been in front of have got to understand is that information is not the thing holding you back anymore. It's total bullshit if you think information is a problem. You can get the information, you can find the information, you can pay for the information, but it can't be, I'm going to get up on stage and give you information. That day and age is gone. I think that anyone with a message to the world has to remember that the story is a component of what you want to share, but really the whole shift that we're going through, this is happening with AI, it's happening with tech, it's happening with fucking robots, it's happening all over the place, is emotion. If you do not move someone and build a connection with someone, whether it's a connection in the audience or a connection with whoever's speaking or sharing or facilitating, you've failed.
I know I saw a number of people were commenting about Cody Sanchez. I was not there. I was still traveling at the time. But they're, all these great one line. All right, will you remember those one lines a week from now? It does not matter.
Yeah.
It just isn't.
Yeah. I think one-liners are great for attention, right? They capture attention. And I like to have them too, right? When people quote, like, it's great to be like, oh, Aaron said this, like, phenomenal. But then you end up, I just see this all the time. Like, this is why we run coaching programs, because people are so locked into information that they don't change anything. And then they loop. And for 6 months goes by and I meet them and they're at the same corner that I drove around the block for. And all of a sudden, what happens is
now the cost has gone up on that Uber drive.
That's right. The thing that happens is, like, I haven't moved and now I'm ashamed that I haven't moved. So now when you ask me about it, not only have I not moved, but now I'm ashamed that I haven't moved. So do another lap, go another 6 months. Well, I haven't moved. I was shameful that I didn't move. Now I feel guilty that you've seen me not move. So my business hasn't changed. I haven't quit my job. I haven't started the company that I said I was going to do. Now I feel shit about it. And I won't talk about it because then I have to admit to myself that I've been waiting for 12 months for information that's never going to change my activity. And if there's anything that I've been really proud of the group that we had in here last night. Those 7 men have taken so much of their own shame and guilt off the table about what they have or haven't done and just started moving. And in 6 months, they moved a hell of a lot. They grew a lot. They changed a lot. But I think one of the addictions that we have is to information. And
a number of them were in that category.
For sure. And I find that the reason we're addicted to information is because school and education perpetuates this need for, you need to know. And I was good at school. I'm blessed to say that, like, I didn't have to try very hard at school. But the thing that I recognized really early at school is that I just needed information to get to the test.
Correct.
So, like, in college,
there's head knowledge, and then there's this deeper knowledge within yourself. And
I'd much rather be street smart, so to say, than book smart. Yeah, in today's world.
Correct. And as you get older, that's what really matters. I mean, the experience obviously matters. I can't tell you most of what I learned. I can rattle things off. I can rattle things off from all my experiences.
Well, the things that you learn in 12th grade are what do you do now? In what way do you use that? Even history is different because they keep changing. They keep changing history. What the fuck? But
now I hated geometry, so I still can't play pool. But other than that,
geometry might be one of the more useful pieces theoretically, right? You don't need to know, like, how to proof a theorem, but you need angles anyway. But I think that
the most important thing is don't play pool against you unless you really know what you're doing.
It's fair. I remember at the retreat that we had, everybody's playing. So this is a fun story. Everyone's playing pool. Marty and I are, like, I don't know, getting ready for the next day. It's the second to last night before the retreat ends, and everyone's having a great time playing pool. And I had a mentor teach me a lot about pool. And I just kind of waited around, jumped on a team, and as soon as I was like the last person to go in the rotation of 4. I was just like ping, 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 ping. And the room went so quiet, so fast. Those guys were like, what the shit just happened? It was hilarious. We ended up winning that game really fast. It was a lot of fun. It was great. But okay, so to information,
we do a lot of work, but we have a lot of fun.
We do have a lot of fun. Today will be a lot of fun. Tomorrow and Sunday will be a lot of fun. Like that's sort of the other piece, though, is like if it's just information and there's no experience to it, if there's no connection, no emotional sort of like color and flavor to it, you end up bored, flatlined, and not memorable. Would that be unmemorable? Non-memorable? I don't know. Forgettable, I guess.
It's also whoever the facilitator is separating themselves from the people. I'm up on the stage. I'm the expert. You're down there. And that it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, again, this is a masterclass on influence because as a facilitator, right, my job, our job, your job is to influence the group and also demonstrate and teach influence. Like it's going to be such a cool experience, this one, about all of these things. Because influence, again, has been my business for 15 years now. And I think that if you can create emotion, you can create memorability, but also, yeah. And if you're really trying to make a dent on somebody and really trying to influence somebody, you have got to have something that when someone leaves, they're not just like, yeah, it was good. Good talk. Like, it's not just notes on a piece of paper. It has to, they have to want to go home and be like, babe, this weekend was absolutely flipping wild. I have never been to anything like this. And whether that's,
I have notebooks of all the other kinds.
I have tons of notes on this stuff. I have the only hour that I could be in the room, like I learned a lot from Cody Sanchez, but I wasn't wowed from an experience perspective. I didn't talk to my neighbor about it. I had to leave afterwards. I was so drained, but you know, that wasn't the goal. It was a great information session, phenomenal information session. They're just different. You know, it's like potatoes and apples. You're not comparing them. They're totally different. But for those individuals that really want to make a dent, that are facilitators or that want to create a workshop or want to create a training or want to coach or it doesn't matter. If you want to create an experience for somebody, then you have to think very differently than the simple relay of information.
You have to think intentionally.
Big time. Yeah, big time. Well, I get excited about these things, man. I could talk about this all day and try to break it down. But it's just kind of important to walk through what that looks like and what it feels like, because I think that what we do very well is we leave that room and everybody in the room is fucking electric. There's information that's valuable, but it's directly tied to an emotional experience, and it has connectivity between the members such that there is an action, clear action afterwards, clear accountability, and it's going to be so memorable that people are going to be like, that's what influence should feel like. Because again, that's the masterclass. Like, this is influence about influence. I'm going to show you.
I would put it this way. They come in there wanting more. They think it's more information, but that's not the more they come to begin to connect with. And so that what they want more of changes over the course of the weekend, that they will just keep coming back because of and they might not even know why that's happening, but they know that there's something different about it.
That's right. Yeah. If your audience, the people listening, especially when you're in person, different for a podcast. Like, I don't expect anybody to listen to a podcast to be like jumping out of their car, like with a Super Mario, pose to go to work. Like, I don't expect that. But if you come to an event, if you come to a retreat, if you come to anything that we do live, we're talking about, launching a summit this fall, potentially. We're talking about all these different experiences. We got retreats coming up. We've got this workshop. We've got things in the fall that we're planning. You're going to leave so charged up, so amped up, so fucking excited for what your next stage and next level looks like in your business, with your relationships, with your wealth, with your health, like all those things. You're going to leave so charged up that people around you are going to be like, dude, what are you on? What did you take? Where did you go this weekend? Like, what did you do? And that, in order to do that, my opinion is that a facilitator has to have an unlimited amount of energy to transmit out. If I go in dead, the audience is dead. If I go in like voltage level 4,000, that's the like, it's the limit of the facilitator, right? Whatever energy level I bring is the upper limit of the room. So it's really important that somebody can bring like absolute, like chaotic magic inside of this room to really set the standard. I don't know. There are people that can do it better than me, definitely. But I study them, right? And I have been for a long time. I've been to all these events and I love it. And it's intense for us. Just like we talked about, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, if we bring it full circle back to how we started about taking care of yourself, like you have to be mindful that at the end of the night tonight, you can't go out to the bar with everyone else when they're till midnight and try to start all over again 8:30, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and they're going to be electric and I'm going to be dead, right? Because all the 10,000 joules of energy, like I'm going to be at 0. They're going to be at 10,000. Like we've transferred all that. Okay, go recharge. We do it again tomorrow. And yeah, 12-hour days. Like you have to be in a way sort of selfish so you can be selfless. It's an interesting game. Okay. We got to dissect behind the scenes.
I think we went longer than we said we would.
Yeah, we're at 42 minutes. I think it's important to showcase what's going on. But this was good to break down. I guess we got a couple hours before all this stuff kicks off. So let's get after it. If you're tuned in and want to learn more about our next events, next retreats, getoutofyourownway.coach is our website. You can look at it. We've got a retreat coming up in June. We've got a retreat coming up. Who knows when this will air, but got a retreat coming up in June, got a retreat coming up.
It will air the end of this month, end of May.
All right. So we have a retreat coming up in like 3 days.
Oh, that's right. In 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Okay. And then we've mapped out one for September. We're planning a bunch of different things. So stay tuned to the website. But if you're curious about how to do this, if you want to learn more, if you've got a community and want us to come and facilitate, reach out to us. The website is getoutofyourownway.coach again, and we'll be here to help. Follow our social media. You can go to @AaronVelky. You can go to our TikTok, our Facebook. We're going to be launching an online community very soon. You can join the tribe. So that's going to be on the website very soon. There's just a lot of resources that we have to help you. So check us out, follow along. We appreciate you tuning in.
I think the most important thing is ask, because it doesn't have to be as difficult if you just try to do it on your own. Any of this planning, organizing, running an event. If you ask, it would take a lot of pressure off you just to ask questions.
The world would be a better place if people just ask for help more.
Yep.
I think there are a lot of people that want to help that don't know how or feel blocked. So ask for help. You never know. We might be able to help you. Either way, it is great for you, for us, you over there.
Hey, you.
Hey, you. Hey, you.
Hey, you.
This is like the Batman, the old
over there, Gotham.
Pass the salt. This is, it's one of the old school conversations, but thanks for doing this. Make it time. And we will see you guys, on the next one. Thanks for being a part of the podcast and supporting. If you haven't yet, go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, because we're going to be launching these a lot. And we've got some really, really special guests coming out.
And some other materials being put on YouTube as well. That's
right. Yeah, we have a lot of resources coming up. Lessons, workshops, all kind the kind of structures that we've run at these big events. These are $150,000, $200,000, $500,000 events that are being put on that we're here to help guide and nurture. So stay tuned, subscribe to YouTube. We'll see you on the next one. And don't forget, get out of your own way. See you guys.